Hey friends, Easter is coming up in a few weeks, so today I thought I'd show you how to make this cute little fabric Easter basket to hold all of your little goodies. We're going to start with the fabric, and I always cut my fabric just a little bit bigger than the dimensions I give here, and then once I get everything together, I go back and trim it down to the size that's needed. So I've got 2 pieces of main fabric, and for the batting for that, I'm using a high loft batting that I just got at Walmart. Then, of course, my 2 lining pieces are here, and for that I'm going to use 2 pieces of fusible fleece. The fusible fleece has glue on the back, and so I'm just going to iron that down to my lining pieces, and you'll see that in the video. So the high loft batting doesn't have glue on it, so I'm just going to use some temporary adhesive and spray this down to my main fabric. But for my lining fabric, then I'm going to use this fusible fleece, and it does have glue on it that you just iron on it based off of your instructions that you have with whatever packaging you have. So after I've gotten everything in here together, then I'm just going to take my scissors, or my rotary cutter is what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to trim everything to the 16 by 12 size. Now we're going to make the sides of the basket, and in order to do that, you're going to cut a 3 by 3 box out of the bottom of both sides on all of the pieces, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. I'm just going to use this little ruler here that's already got a square on it, but if you don't have that, you can mark it out with just a regular ruler and a heat erase marker. And so I'm just going to draw my corners out 3 by 3 on the bottom of all 4 of my pieces, and then I'm just going to cut those corners out. And again, I'm doing this for the 2 top pieces and the 2 lining pieces. Now I'm going to take our main pieces, and we're going to sew the main fabric together. So I'm going to take my cutout box pieces, and I'm going to put them pretty side to pretty side and match the edges up and the bottom up, and I'm going to pin that together, and I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch down the bottom only. And if you're nervous about that, you can take a ruler and a heat erase marker and mark it out before you sew it. Once you've sewn it, you are going to open it up and you're going to press that seam open. I take my iron and do it, but just be really careful because that high loft might melt, so use a low setting. Now you're going to clip the sides together, and you're going to sew 1/4 of an inch down both of the sides on your sewing machine, like I've done here. And then you're going to pop open that whole bag like this. Now you're going to fold the sides of the bag towards the middle and match up those seams on the sides that we sewed. And I'm just going to open the seam up there and just match it up with that bottom seam that we sewed, and I'm going to clip that together. Then I'm going to straighten out the other edges there and clip those as well. You can see it already kind of lines up as it is. You're just going to clip it in place, and you're going to do that on the opposite side, and then you are going to sew 1/4 of an inch seam down both sides of the bag. And now this has formed the outer main fabric of our basket. Now we're going to do the same thing with the lining that we did with the main fabric. We're going to take our lining fabric, and we're going to put pretty side to pretty side and match everything up, pin it together, and you are going to sew 1/4 of an inch seam just across the bottom. Once that's completed, you're going to open it up and you're going to press that seam open. I'm going to do it first with my fingers, and then I'm going to do it with my iron. Now I'm going to take the main fabric piece that I've done here, and I'm just going to fold it back in on itself and fold the bottom up to be flat like I'm doing here. Then I'm going to take the bottom piece here, and I'm just going to flatten it out where it's really straight, and you can see I'm lining it up with the bottom of the lining pieces where the boxed corners are going to be. And I'm doing this because the batting on the main piece is a higher loft than the fusible fleece batting that I'm using for the lining. And so there's going to be a little bit of a discrepancy here. So I'm just lining this line up down here with the bottom of the lining bag where we're going to box the corners out. And I'm going to take my heat erase marker or my fabric pen, and I'm going to draw directly onto the lining piece where I stitched the side pieces for the main piece at the top and the bottom on both sides. Then I'm going to draw a line with the ruler, and that's where I'm going to sew my seam allowance with at the sewing machine. And then I'm going to trim the edges to 1/4 of an inch. Once I've done that, I'm going to open up the lining piece, and I'm going to take the sides and fold them again towards the middle, and I'm going to line that side seam up with the bottom seam, and I'm going to clip those in place. You can see that they naturally already kind of go together, and you're just clipping them in place just so that you can use that at the sewing machine. And then I'm going to flip it around and do it on the opposite side. And then I'm going to take it to my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch down both sides to create that box on the lining piece. Now that the lining piece is done, I'm going to take it and turn it inside out, and I'm going to place it in the inside of my main piece there. And I'm just going to line those seams up and shake it out. Remember that discrepancy I said was going to be there because of the batting? Well, for me, it's about 1/4 of an inch at the top of the bag, and I'm just measuring it here with my ruler. So what I'm going to do is remove the lining from the main piece, and I'm going to lay it out flat. And once again, I'm going to take my ruler and my heat erase marker, and I'm just going to mark that 1/4 of an inch off the top. And then I'm going to take my scissors and cut it, or you can do it with a rotary cutter, either way. And after I've cut that down, I'm just going to double check again, and I actually clip the sides together in place just so I can shake it out and make sure that everything lines up pretty good. And you can see here that the lining actually matches the outer fabric of the bag. Now we're going to work on our handle, and I have a few things here for our handle. First of all, the fabric's going to be 5 inches wide by 18 inches long. I'm going to use a couple of pieces of batting in mine. The first one is the same high loft batting that I used for the main fabric and the fusible fleece that I used for the lining, and these are both going to be 3/4 inches wide by 18 long. I have some plastic canvas here, and it's a 1/2 inch wide. And here is the brand that I used. I just got it at the Hobby Lobby, but the reason I use this is just to help make the handle stick up and be more stable. So now I'm going to take my fabric, and I'm just going to fold it in half, and I'm just going to finger press it here for you so that you'll see what I'm doing, in half. Then I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to press one side in towards the middle, and then the next side in towards the middle. And then I'm going to fold it on top of each other and take that to my ironing board and press it out like I've done here. Now I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to open up one of the middle panels that we folded in there, and I'm going to take the fusible fleece with the glue side down, and I'm just going to lay it on the inside of one of those folded panels. It doesn't really matter which one. And now I'm going to take the high loft piece, and I'm just going to open up the inside of the other side, and I'm just going to lay the entire piece in there and just fold it over top. I'm not gluing it down or anything. Just going to tuck it in there, take it to my ironing board, and just press everything down together. And I'm going to sew about 3/8 of an inch down each side of the piece like I've done here. You can see I've sewn both of them. I didn't sew the ends, just the sides. Then I'm going to take my plastic piece, and I'm just going to slip it in between the two pieces there in the middle, and I'm just going to slide that piece of plastic all the way through the tube. And any excess that hangs out the end, you can just cut it off, but you can see how flexible this makes the handle. Now we're going to go back and take our lining piece and our main fabric. This is where we put them together to make sure that they lined up, and I'm just going to remove the liner from the main part of the bag. I'm going to take my heat erase marker or your fabric marker, and I'm just going to mark that inside fold there just to get the center so we can put our handles on. And you can see it here. I've got 2 pieces marked on the inside there where I can see. And now I'm going to take my handle, and I'm going to drop it on the inside of the bag just like this, like a U shape. And I'm going to line up those edges with the mark, just put them in the middle, and I'm going to clip them in place. Now I'm going to take my liner, and I'm going to set it on the inside of the bag. It will not go all the way down to the bottom of the bag because that handle's in place, but we've already made sure that everything fits, so we know it's going to work. So you're just going to line up those seams and open them up, and then you're going to clip them in place. And the reason that the bag looks like this is because you're sewing pretty sides to pretty sides. So the pretty side of your lining should be facing the pretty side of your outer fabric. And so you're just going to kind of work this around and clip everything into place. And don't forget your handles there. Make sure that you get all of the pieces clipped in there where your handles are clipped as well. And now I'm going to take my heat erase marker, and I'm going to mark me out a spot on my bag that's probably 4 or 5 inches apart to let me know to not sew over that seam. That's so that you can turn the thing inside out. And so you can see I've made my marks here. And then you're going to take this to your sewing machine and sew a 3/8 inch around the entire thing. Now that we have sewn the lining and the main fabric together here, we're just going to reach in through that opening that we left, and we're just going to turn the entire basket inside out. This may take you a little bit of time. Just try to be as careful as you can be. If you do pop a couple of your stitches while trying to get this turned inside out, it's okay because you're going to do a top stitch around the entire basket whenever you get it all flipped inside and out. So make sure that you go in there and just pop out those corners at the bottom, those box corners on the lining and on the main fabric. And now you're left with the opening, and you're just going to kind of fold those under and clip it together. It already naturally kind of does that, but I just go go ahead and clip it together, and then I take this whole thing to my ironing board and I just iron everything down, just making sure that all of those seams are kind of flat before I go back through to my sewing machine and sew a top stitch all the way around. And here we are at the sewing machine, and I've lined my needle up on the edge, and I do anywhere from an 1/8 to a 1/4 of an inch top stitch around the entire thing. You can see I'm just removing the clips here, but make sure that your handles are pulled out and not tucked up under your bag as you're doing that top stitch around. If you do, they'll get folded up and it won't look right. So make sure those are pulled out as you do your top stitch. And I just do that all the way around. It just makes a really nice finished edge. So here's the finished basket. You can see the handle holds up really well. It's very sturdy, and it's a nice large size to put all of your goodies in. And I also made it in a smaller size, and I put the measurements for the smaller size on here. And you would make this basket just the same as we did the pink bow basket, just use these measurements instead. And you can see them here side by side. This one is a little bit bigger than this one, but I love the way these turned out. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video tutorial. I'll see you the next time.